The next part is about our monitoring platform. So before we dive into the details, and I will first give you a quick overview of what will be covered today. Well, first we need to get familiar with some of the key pages in our platform. And the next, we need to know about the essential functions which is necessary during the installation, the configuration, and the maintenance. And in addition, we'll show you some of the functions we have newly updated. Well, these functions could ensure the safe and efficient system operation, and some of the functions, they can improve the user's experience. And before we start, I want to know that if you remember how to bring a device online. Okay, it's okay. So we just do a quick refresh here. Well, first we need to make sure that the installation has been done and the connection between the inverter and the battery is correct. And after that, we need to make sure that all the grounding connection is in place. And the next step, we need to make sure that the communication modules are correctly inserted in the inverter. And the next step is that if the user, they have some special requirement about the devices they want to connect with the inverter, we need to make sure that that part of the connection is correct. And also, we need to confirm that if the smart meter is correctly integrated in the system. And so after confirming all of that, we need to make sure that the system can be powered on correctly. So after all these things is checked, we can follow the standard procedure to start up. And this process can be found in our user manual. So at this stage, we can prepare our Intech Hub app, as we can see from here. For the Solinteg monitoring solution, we have the website version and the app version. Well, actually, all the functions are similar in this in our website and also in our app. And we can consider our app as a portable version of the platform so that we can use our the app to monitoring all the plants and your account at any time and anywhere. And if you haven't downloaded our app yet, so maybe right now is the perfect time. And as we mentioned procedure over there, so after we have checked all the list that we need to set before we bring the device online, we can prepare our app. And there's two ways to bring the device online. The first one, we can create an account first, and then we add a new plant, and then we add devices into this plant. Or we can choose to directly connect the devices through the button just at the sign page. So there is a button called the Direct Connect. So through that button, we can do some quick configuration. And after that, we can create a plant and then add devices into this plant and also give the owner of the plant an account. And all of this could be considered into the introduction of today. So let's first get started. So for this part, they are the features of our monitoring solution. And later we'll use our website to introduce each of them in details. And so next, let's first look into the authority of the different accounts in our website. So maybe this. Can you see this clearly? So we have different types of the account in our platform. We have the owner account and some of the internal account under the distributor, and we have the demo account. So the owner account is for the users of this plant. They can get access to the full functions under the plants. For example, they can see the overview performance of this plant, and they can manage their plant. And also the device management of each plant under this account can be accessed by the owner. But for some professional settings, for example, to checking the log of this device or to export some professional reports or to upgrade the firmware, well, for the owners, they don't have the access to these functions. But for distributors, it will have some internal accounts under the distributor. For example, the organization account and the administrator account. They have the full access to all the functions in our platform. And we can also set the ORM account. So for this account, they can do part of the settings, but they can get access to some of the functions. For example, in here, well, they can see the overview and they can upgrade the device, but they can't manage all the plants under this account, including adding a plant or delete a plant or add some information of this plant. So for this part of the account, we suggest that we can give this account to like the technical support team or some after sales support team. And we can also have the visitor account here. So for the visitor account, they have few access to the functions in our platform. So for example, they can only see some of the overview and the performance overview of the plans we have, and also they can see the device list. But for other functions, they might just see part of it and under the visitor account. So if we want to show some of our customers about what it looks like in our platform, but we don't want them to see too much information in our account, we can set them a visitor account. And we also provide the demo account. Well, this demo account, we can use them for showcase because we don't need to get access to this account. It's just, it has an access button just in the sign page in our website. And by using it, some of our maybe professional customer without having account to log in, they can just directly to see about the basic structure of our website. And from here, we can take the real platform as an example. So let's take a look at the sign page part. So for the sign page, it mainly have 4 functions. Well, first, we can change the language here. Now we have support 11 language in our platform, and we can not only change the language here, we can change the language later after we have signed in. And of course, the main function here is for us to put our account and a password here. And also by clicking here is a demo account we have mentioned. So during some expectation, during some events, we can use this button to show the customers some internal functions of our web platform. So from here, so all the functions here are actually limited. It's not so that they can see that the basic structure and what key information is under each page, but they can see all the functions inside and they can see the real information of the organization under this account. So let's log out. And here, there's a very important button over here. So this is help, if we click here, we can register the account for the owner, or now we have already support to register the account by the distributor or the installer themselves. So if we click here, we can see that we can create an account for the owner by entering their required information here. And we also have another method to help to create an account for the plant owner, and we can show you later after we sign in. And for the distributor and the installer, well, at the very early stage, they can't create an account for themselves. It's only their superior organization can create an account for their distributor and installer. But now we have support this function. They can put their organization name here, but all of this register process requires the most important information, and that is the organization code by their superior organization. So if they don't have the code from you, for example, they can't register this account for themselves. So let's sign in and see what's inside of this platform. Well, so for this account, it's only for training. So all the information here, actually, they are not real. And some of the functions, due to the limitation of the different devices and the firmware version, we might not to see that very clearly. And in that case, we use the slides as the introduction. So after we have signed in, the first page we have see is a plant page, and we can see from here. So the part of here, they will show you the overall performance of all the plants then that is under this account. And so from here, we can see the list of the plants, and all these plants can be divided into different categories. For example, we can separate these plants by the different stadiums. You can see the normal plant here and the part offline plant here and the abnormal plant here and the all offline plant here. So the part offline is actually the function we have just upgraded. For example, if the plants that have many devices inside and there's just one device is offline now, but others are working normally, and we can collect this plant into the part offline so that we can clearly see what's wrong with this plant. And by dividing the plants into different categories, we can easily know which plants needs us to pay more attention or which plant we need to solve the problem of that plant more urgently. And here, there's a little button at the very front of each list, and it also shows the different status of the plants. And by clicking the question mark over here, we can see the instructions about the different status. And next, let's see, there's a button. So the search box over here can help us to search for the different plants we want. For example, we can search for the targeted plant by their name, the device SN code inside this plant, and also we can search for the plant by the email, the owner's email. And besides that, we now support the advanced filtering. We can use this. We can use this filtering to searching for the target plants. For example, we can choose only to see the residential plant, or the utility plant, or the CNI plant. And we can also search for the plant by the capacity, the grid connection time, and here is actually another new function we have just developed. So let's see from here. For this part, there are some operation buttons, and the first one is a little yellow star. So if we click this, for example, and that means we have followed this plant. For example, if you have many plants to manage under your account at the same time, and sometimes you don't want to search for this plant like one by one, or each time when you are opening this platform, you need to search for this plant. And for this kind of plant, you can add them into your follow list. And when you have clicked the yellow star over here, the next time when you open the platform, you can click here, my watch list, and to see all the plants you have followed over here. So for example, some of the plants, they are running very normally, and some of the plants, they are recently installed. We can follow these recently installed plants so that every time when we're doing the maintenance, we can check these plants first. And for other operations here, it means to modify. For example, when we are adding a new plant, there is some information for us to put in. And by clicking here, we can change the information we put in there. And here means the device. And after clicking it, we can enter into the device page under this account, under this plant. And let's go back to see one of the most important button over here. So by clicking this button, we can create a new plant. So as we mentioned, there are two ways for us to create account for the owner of the plant. The first way is using the button at the sign page. And the second way is using the add a new plant function over here. So as we can see that there is information square for us to put the owner's email. So if we have put the owner's email here and the system detects that, well, this is a new email, and then the system will automatically create an account for this owner. And after we have finished all the information that is required here, I will use it as an example. And click next, and it will require the location. And the next is other settings. We need to put the currency unit we want for this plant here, and also the profit per kilowatt hour and the cost per kilowatt hour for here. And after that, we can create this plant successfully. And after that, remember we have put the owner's email here. Well, if the new owner is so if it is a new email in our system, the system will send a confirmation letter to this email and with the default password. For example, 1235546. And after the owner have received this email, he can use this email and also with a default password to enter into the platform. So it is very convenient. Okay, so next we can see that by clicking here, it seems that we can click the plant name. And if we click that, we will enter into the detailed page under this plant. So first, let's take a look at the overview page. Well, here shows a fluent chart about the real-time situation of this plant. And here shows another chart that gives us more information about how the plant is running right now. And here are also the overview chart to show you the revenue, the production today, and other informations. Well, let's take a look at this chart first. Well, as we can see that this is how the system works in this shows in this chart. And there are different values under the different icons. For example, the icon over here means the PV production, and icon over here means the grid. And then we can see that the value under the grid is now is a negative value. So that means now the system is import power from the grid and using to support the load and also charge the battery. And we can see the value over here. Oh, sorry. Let's first take a look at this. So if the value over here is negative, it means that the system is import power from the grid. And if the value now is a positive value, it means that it will export power to the grid. And from here, we can see that the value under the battery is now negative. And that means the battery now is under the charging mode. And if the value under the battery is positive, and that means the battery is discharging right now. And let's take a look at here. So this page is very similar comparing the picture we have seen from our app. So we can also choose to set different parameters here. For example, for now, I only want to see the PV power and the grid power, and I can just click this so that I can only save the parameters that I want to see. And also, I can choose to see this data in different time period. For example, I want to see the data of this plant in a month, and I can use my mouse to see more clearly of the data in different period. And by clicking here, we can enter into the report part and export the report of this plant. Okay, let's go back first. So that is all for the overview page. And after that, we can take a look at the device page under this plant. So from here, we can see this page will show all the devices which is under this plant. And from here, the icon over here, we can see the different status of this device. And here we can see the SN code of this device. Click here, we can copy the SN code. And here shows some of the basic information of the device over here. And the operation button here, the first one means configure, and the second means the lock. And the next is the modify, and the last button is for us to delete this device. And for the modify, we can see this first. It means that we can change the name of this device. And here is two buttons over here. So this is where we can add the new devices into this plant. And this is a very important function under this page. So if we want to add new devices into this plant, there are two options. We can choose to scan the devices or add the devices. The difference is if we choose to, if we are for example, if we choose the scan device function here, that means now the new device is already have a physical communication connection with the devices that is already inside this plant. If the new device is a completely new device and it doesn't have any physical communication connection with the plant over here, we'll suggest you to use the add device button over here. So for example, if this device is completely new and we add this device for this plant for the first time, we can, for example, we can add an inverter here, and we can put the device name, the device SN, and the check code on the product here. And after that, we can add the device into this plant. But if the new device have already set the physical communication connection with the device over here, for example, when we are trying to add a data logger, a charging pile, or a slave inverter, we can use this button. So as long as the physical communication connection is set, the system can automatically find the devices over here. And the only thing for us to do is to check all the information here to see that if it is correct. But sometimes you meet the situation that I have already connected the physical communication connection. I have already connected the physical communication, but the system cannot scan the devices over here. So in this case, that means that there might be something wrong with this physical connection. We need to check that again. And once everything is confirmed, so the platform can scan the devices and add them to the list very quickly. And the alarm over here, we can see that. So the alarm page here shows all the alarms that is related to this device. And we can check these have also been separated into different categories. We can see the alarm of the current, and we can also see the historical alarms, so that we can know that which alarm needs us to pay more attention to. And for example, here, we can click here for more detailed information. So now we have upgrade the design of this page. So whether there is a alarm shows up here, and we can have the possible cause and the suggested solution over here, so that it can help to reduce the pressure during the after-sale maintenance. And also we can see that from this part, there's also a search box. So we can search for different alarms by the device SN code, and also the alarm ID, the alarm name, and also the start name and the end name. By the advanced filtering is that we can choose to see the different types of the alarms, for example, the errors, the warnings, and some information from the system. Okay, let's see. So the basic information page here also shows the information we have put when we are adding this new plant. So all the cost per kilowatt and the profit per kilowatt is a value we set when we're adding this plant. And from here, let's go back to the devices. So we can see that the color of the device name and the color of the SN code is blue. That means that we can click into this button. So actually, click both of the button can help us to enter into the detailed page of this device under this plant. So first, let's see. After we clicking the name of the device, we can enter the first page we see is a real-time info of this device. For example, we can see the basic parameters of the inverters here. So all of the parameters here are the real-time data. And we can also see the inverter's AC parameters and also the parameters from the PV side, the battery side, the load side, and also from the meter. And so actually we have a new function for this part is that sometimes the inverter is not, for example, this device is not running very normally. And in this case, we have created the sub status under this device. And I can show you through this one. In this page, for example. So if the system is not running normally, after we have clicking the device name or the SN code of this device and to enter the detailed page of this device, and we can see that there is a sub-status just behind the device status over here. And it will give us a brief information of why this inverter is now at the standby status. And if we click the question mark over here, we can see more informations and it will give us a suggested solution of how to check this device status. Okay, let's go back. So here, this part shows the real-time info, and let's look at into the power and production page. Well, this page is actually similar than the chart we have seen under the plant. We can also choose to see the parameters we want to see in this chart. For example, I only want to see the PV power, the battery power, and the SOC, and I also can choose a different time period to show the performance of this device. And the next part is about the professional parameters. So we can see from here that the parameters we can select is more than the parameters we can set in the power and production part. And these parameters are more professional. And let's see that as an example. For example, now I only want to see the PV power and the battery power for this page. And after I confirmed, the chart will automatically show all the related data. And please be noticed that from this chart, we can see the bottom line means the time. And as we have chosen the power of here, so the unit of here is a kilowatt. That is the unit of the power. And what if we add a new parameter, for example, as the current of the battery here? So this time, the new parameter, the units will be showing up here. So from this line, we can see the current of this battery right now. And what if I choose, like we add three parameters which have a different unit? So now if we have added the voltage into this chart, and now we can see that the value over here is now changed. That means that because we have chosen more than two units of the parameters, now the platform will get a little bit confused. But you can also see the detailed information by clicking here. So so that can tell us that every time when we are trying to select the parameters and to show us the chart over here, so all the units of the parameters we have selected must not higher than 2. And there's another function over here. For example, I have many plants, and each time I just want to check the PV power, the battery power, and the battery current. And considering that I have so many plants to manage at the same time, I don't want to check these parameters every time when I enter into a new plant. So I can just save it. For example, I will set this template as 1 and confirm. So the next time when we're trying to see the professional parameters of another plant, and I want to see the same parameter, I can choose this template so that it can help us to save the time and make all the operation work to be done more effectively. And here is the alarm page over here. Well, this is also shows the alarm related to the device. And we can see that there's a new button over here. It means dismissed the alarms. Well, this function is also recently updated because sometimes we might meet the situation that, for example, if it is a purely off-grid system and it doesn't have a smart meter inside the system, but the platform, they will sometimes they will send you the alarms about the meter communication fault. So in this case, we can choose to dismiss these alarms in the future. And in some cases that in the system, it doesn't have any battery. So in this case, we can choose to dismiss the alarm over here. We can choose to dismiss the BMS communication fault. So after it is confirmed, that means that you will not receive the alarms of the BMS communication fault. And also we have another dismissed alarms, and that is if you have the EV charger inside your system, and now you have only installed the EV charger, but you are not using it right now. The platform might send you an alarm about that, and in that case, you can choose to dismiss the alarms of the EV charger communication fault. And we can see, and from here we can see that there is a device log. And considering the difference between the devices, we can use this device as example. So from this device log, we can see that now we have improved the page of the log of the different devices, that it will show us more information about the logs. And also for some specific logs, we can unfold and see more information about that. So that is the function we have just upgrade to improve the user experience. For example, by here. And we can also and then we can also from the search box over here to search the different logs by the time they have occurred and by the log type. For example, if it is a device configuration or if it is a firmware upgrade, and also by the operator. Okay, let's go back to the device. So that is all for the device page under this plant. And now let's move to the devices. This key page of the home page. So first thing we see is a device list. Well, for this page, it will collect all the devices from different plants under this account. And we can search for the different devices by the plant name, the device type. So now we have add the smart meter and EV charger into the device type. And we can also search for different devices by their model names, and also by the device name and the SN code, and also by the different status of this device. And in the advanced filtering, we can choose the different organization that this device belongs to. So, okay, so let's move to, so we have already introduced about this part. Let's move to the operation part. So the log is the same as we mentioned before. And if we are clicking the configuration over here, let's see, use this device as example. And that shows all the all the parameter settings of this inverter, and we can go through it one by one. Well, first is the basic parameter settings. And from here, we can choose a safety code. It's mainly related to different regulations of different countries. And by here, we can change the working mode of this inverter, like choosing the general mode or the UPS mode. And we have improved the design of this page because we have put the instructions under each mode. If we put the indicator on this working mode, it will show us the basic introduction about this mode so that it can help users to find a working mode that's suitable for their requirement. And here we can choose the battery model over here. And the next, let's move to the power control. Okay, so from here, we can set the export limit. And if we turn off this limit, as we mentioned before, that means that now the power export will follow the capability of this inverter's AC output power. And if we turn on this function so that we can send the power to the grid. And if we can choose to turn off or turn on the import limit here. And this is mainly related to the contract with the grid operator and also related to the main breaker we have installed inside our house. And also, we can set the value of power from the grid here. So this parameter over here, the export control is for the situations that the inverter have lost the communication between the smart meter or the data logger. So in this case, that means the inverter cannot receive the real-time requirement from the grid side. So there are two options for us to set. Well, first is a hard mode. If we choose a hard mode here, and when the inverter have lost communication, for example, with a smart meter, and that means in that case, the inverter will stop the generation directly and immediately. And if we choose the softer option here, and that means once the inverter have lost the communication with the smart meter, it will running at the value we have set here. So the next parameter is about the maximum output power. So many of our inverters, they support the functions that we called, for example, the 110% AC output overloading capability. So if we want to use that function, we can choose to choose the option overload here. And that means during some peak energy hours, if we turn on this function, the inverter can give us extra headrooms for this power. And if we choose the option rated, that means at this stage, the maximum output power of the system will be equal to the rated output power of the inverter. And if we choose underload, that means in this case, the maximum output power will be lower than the rated output power of the inverter. And here is another function. Well, actually, this parameter is mainly for the different regional rate of regulations. Or for example, the DRM over here. Well, this is a regulation for Australia and New Zealand. And the RCR over here, this is the regulation for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Well, so these two regulations, they have a similar principle. And to simply say that is, when the grid already have too much power in this grid, and so in this case, it wants the users to take more power from the grid, but not to export more power to the grid. So it will, so some in these countries, they will require the users to use an additional device. For example, the RCR receiver or some devices provided by that can provide the DRM. So, for example, if you are in Germany and the government requires you to install the RCR device with your system, and you will use the DI port to connect your inverter with this RCR device. And after you have connected with that, you can open the function under the power control over here. so that the system can running under the requirement of the government. And the next part of the parameters is about the grid connection parameters. So for this part of the parameter settings, they are quite professional. And honestly, we don't use that much during the daily operation. And that is why we suggest that only the installers or the distributors with a highly professional background can change the settings over here. And here, let's see the feature parameters. Well, first, if in this system, we only have one inverter. So in this case, we can choose independent here. And if in this system, we have a parallel inverter inside, so in that case, we can select the different rules for the different inverter inside this system. And also, if we have connected the watchdog in this system, we can turn on this function so that we can connect with some other EMS. And for the on-grid and off-grid switch, and that is for because many of our inverters, they support function of on-grid and off-grid switch. If we want to turn on this function, we can just click on here. And for some inverters, they provide the function called the MPPT parallel connection. If we want to use that connection, first we need to make sure that the PV string have been connected correctly on the bottom of our inverter. And after that, we can click the button over here. So in this case, our inverter can accept more more high current PV input so that our system can be connected with some high power PV panels. And here, so here means the unbalanced output because many of our inverters, they support the function called, for example, the unbalanced output, especially for some three-phase inverters. So in this case, if we want to open this function, we can click the enable here. And here means the off-grid offload reconnection delay. So this is mainly for the off-grid situation. For example, if we are in the off-grid situation and the load we have, actually the power of the load we have is higher than the capability of the inverter. So in this case, when the inverter have detected that the power from the load is too high, it will enter into the like the waiting status and set this delay times so that you can receive the alarm and then to check or turn off some of the off-grid load. And from here, we can set the off-grid voltage setting. And here is for us to set the NPE check. And here, if we have connected with some additional emergency shutdown devices, we can choose the different options according to the types of these devices. For example, if the emergency stop switch you use is normally open, and we can choose this option. And if this switch is normally closed, we can choose the option here. And here is the load management. Well, this function, the parameter over here is mainly for some smart devices with a DO port or for some heat pumps with the SG ready. So if we choose to turn on this function, and that means in this case, the inverter, it will become the smart home energy management of your house. For example, if we choose the manual mode here, the manual mode here under the load management means that the users, they can choose when they want to turn on this smart devices or the heat pumps, or when to turn off these smart devices, and they can remotely control the on and off of these devices. And if we choose the smart control strategy over here, well, it have three mode under the smart control. The first one is turn off. Well, actually, we are upgrading this button over here. So for the turn off button here, we can consider it as a time control mode. So for this mode, we can select the different time slot of these smart devices or the heat pump. For example, I want the heat pump to be working like around 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. and I can select the time here. And after the time has been successfully operated, that means during this time of the day, the heat pump will automatically to start working. And what if, and for this mode, and outside this time period, the heat pump will not follow the rules here. And so if you want to open it manually, it's okay, but it won't follow the instructions of the settings here. But what if I want to use a heat pump outside the time and I don't want to use too much power from the grid or from my battery? And then I can choose the two options here. So the time mixed power to the grid control is suitable for the situations that you don't have the export power limit. So as we can see, we can set different values here. For example, we can first set the power to the grid threshold, and that means if the power we export to the grid is higher than the value we have set here, so the system will use the extra power to running the heat pump or the smart devices. And in case that the system, the smart device will turn on and turn off frequently, we have set the minimum operation hours here. For example, if the power to the grid, the actual power to the grid have just over the value we have set here, at least the smart devices were running for like 10 minutes. And after that, if the actual power is lower than this value we have set here, the smart devices won't be able to work. And here we can also set the daily maximum operation hours. So that means that is the longest time the smart devices can running inside this system. And here we can set some of the values to stop the smart devices from running. For example, we can set the power from the grid threshold, and that means if the power we're taking from the grid to running this system is higher than the value we have set here, so in this case, the smart device will enter into the turn off status, and we can also set the end SOC threshold over here. That means if we take more power from the battery, and now the battery's SOC have reached the end SOC threshold value we have set here, the smart devices won't be able to work. And we can, and of course, we can set the time slot here. And this is very important that the priority of the time slot here is actually higher than all the values, all the parameters we set here. And that is to say, if I set this smart meter, I want it to running like from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. or even even I haven't reached these conditions, well, the smart device can also start to run because it's now among the time slot. And only when the smart device, the time is out of this time slot we have set, the smart device will follow the instructions, will follow the rules here. The time-mixed battery SOC control is for the situation that you have the power export limit. And in this case, we'll use the SOC of the battery to start the system. For example, if the SOC of the battery is higher than the value we have set here, and it will use extra power to charge the heat pump or charge the smart device to make them to get to work. And all the parameters here is similar with time mixed power to grid control. And in this strategy, the priority of the time control here is also higher than all the conditions we have set here. And the next part is the inverter's maintenance. Well, first we can upgrade our firmware through the button over here. And also we can set the breakpoint resume switch here. Well, this is also a new function we have just upgrade. This is for the situation that, for for example, the inverter have lost the communication with our platform, and in that case, that means the inverter won't be able to send all the data to our platform. And the common situation is that, for example, the system is inside the house, and the family in this house they take a holiday out, and they have turned off the Wi-Fi inside their house. So in this case, the inverter will lose the communication with the cloud platform. But if we have opened this function, and that means when the Wi-Fi has been turned on again, and when the communication between the inverter and the platform has been recovered, and so in that time, the inverter will send all the data during this period back to the platform again. So that is what this breakpoint resume switch can do. And the buttons over here, these are very common buttons that we might need to use during the installation, during the maintenance. Well, this can force the inverter to stop, or to restart. And by clicking here, we can download all the parameters. So that is the part for the configuration of the device. So let's move to the next part. So the next part is about the unupgradable list. So the page over here, it shows that all the devices that can be upgraded but not yet. So we can see here shows the current version, and here shows the latest version. So by clicking the button over here, we can upgrade this device for example, for this specific device. And if we have a lot of device to be upgraded, if I can choose, if, for example, I don't have many devices like this, and I can just select the device I want to upgrade, and I click here, one-click upgrade. That means I can upgrade these devices at the same time. And also, all the upgrade record will be shown up here, and it will give you the information of the device, of the information of the device, and what version did you upgrade, and what did that upgrade happen, and who did that upgrade. And so from here, all the devices we have upgraded will show up here. So in this page, it will give you the information about the status or the result of this upgrade. For example, here this device has been successfully upgraded, but this one is failed. So we can click here to do that again, or we can see some detailed information about this upgrade. And also, if you have a lot of like a bunch of the device to be upgraded at the same time, and for example, you only know the SN code of this device, and you can also use the function over here as the limitation about the device firmware versions. I will use this slides as to introduce that part. Um, Yeah, from this part. So from here, we can see that if we have a bunch of the device need to be upgraded at the same time, we can click the button over here. So if we just have one device, and we can enter the SN code here and then search for the device. After we have checked every information is okay, we can start the upgrading. But if we have a lot of devices to be upgraded at the same time, we can first download the template over here. So this is an Excel document. And after we have put all the required information on that in Excel document, we can click the button over here to import this document. So the next page we see is up here. So after we have already input the information required, here will shows all the information of the devices and also the upgrade version you want this device to upgrade, and also the device model here. And if we checked all the information here is okay, we can click the next. So after that, we can choose to upgrade these devices immediately, or we can just schedule a time for this device to upgrade. For example, here, we can select a specific date and a time for this devices to upgrade. And after we click the complete here, the job is finished. And after that, we can check the upgrading status under this page. And then the next page is about the replace record. Well, this is also a function that we have just developed. Yeah, we can use example over here. So if we met some old device that is offline now, or and also we need to be the organizational account. So in this case, we can find a little button just in the device page of this plant. I can use this as an example. So now the device in this plant is now offline. So that we can find a little button over here. It said the replace device, and after clicking it, we can put the SN code of the old device here, and we can add the information of the new device here. For example, we need to put the SN code, the check code, and the device name, and also we can do some remarks to show that why we do this replacing. And after that, we can click in the OK. And so this record will be collected into this page. So at the same, we can to check which device has been changed and who did that change and when did that device change. Okay, so now let's move to the next part about alarms. Well, the alarms is like the alarm page we see under the different devices under the different plants. It has also been separated into different status, and we can check over here. And also we can click here to see the detailed information of this alarm and the suggested solution. And over here we can see that there is a little bell icon over here. So this is also the new function we have just upgraded. Well, it can help us to set some push method of this account. For example, if I click here, that means if under this account, I have many plans to manage at the same time, and sometimes I only want to receive the alarms that is most urgent, that is most important, and that needs to be handled immediately. And I can choose whether I can choose the message push here. So for example, I can only choose to receive the method of the error alarm, and I can choose to receive this message from all the plants or just receive the message from the plants that I followed. And also, I can choose whether I want the message center to push this alarm. For example, do not push all plants or only the follow plants. And I can choose the push language here. For example, it's also the 11 language that we support in this platform. And so the next part is about the reports. The first part is about the power plant report. So this is similar than the report page we just see under this plant. It has the same function, and we can choose a different plant here and select the different parameters. And the next, the plant comparison. So this is a function we just upgrade because sometimes if for example, the two plants they are installed in the same place. So if we compare the performance of these two plants, it's very easily to know that if some plant, some devices is going wrong in this plant. And for example, so if we want to use this function, we can add a new comparison. We can set a name of this comparison, and we can choose whether I want to see the data of the or the daily data or the monthly data. For example, I will set the monthly data and I can select the plants. Or for example, I can select all the plants to be compared together or just the plants that I followed. Or I can use here to select all the plants that I want to compare. And for example, I set these two together. And from here, we can select the dimensions we want to compare in this report. For example, click the PV production, the general consumption, and okay, third party. Okay, just this three. And I save it. So now I can see the result of the plant comparison here. And so the different color, it shows the different parameters from different plants. So after I put my indicator in this, it can give you the most detailed information. And also I can change the format of the report here. I can change it into the tables. And of course, I can choose to export this data. So after I clicking the button over here, it shows that the report now has been exported. I can choose to view this report now, or I can just cancel. And for example, if I have many reports to be exported at the same time, I can just choose the export button. And so if I want to check this report later, I can come into the export records here. So this page will collect all the reports we have just exported in under this platform, and we can choose to download this report or we can choose to delete this report. And from here, so the installed capacity report also shows the information of all the plants capacity under your account. And now we can support you to choose the devices, including the inverter, the EV charger, the diesel generator, the logger, and the smart meter. And we can choose by the searching box over here, by the different device type, by the different time period, and also by the different organization. So by the advanced filtering, we can choose the detailed device model and also which country this device belongs. And also we can choose the battery model and the battery capacity here. Okay, so that is all for the report page. And we can see what is inside the manage page. Well, the manage page could be very useful. So we can first take a look at the organization page. So from here, we can see that all the organization under your account and also their affiliate like organizations under this organization. For example, if this organization also includes some organizations of the distributors or the installers, they will be showing up here. And by clicking the button over here, we can add a new organization. And that is a way we said that we can set the organization for the distributors or the installers on that under your account. We can choose the superior organization here, and we can choose the organization, and we can enter the organizational name. And the most importantly is about the organization code here. Well, actually, it is given by the system, and it is very important if this organization, they want to have some installer or distributor under them. Well, this organization code is required. And from here, we can see the information of this organization. And that is, so this information is what we have just entered when we are adding a new one. And by clicking here, we can change some of the information here. And also from this part, we can see all the internal account under this organization. And that is when we are mentioned that we have different types of account at the very early stage of today's training. For example, we can add account here by putting the user's name and the email address, and we can choose the different rules for this account. For example, if we choose the administrator, that means it have full access of all the functions in our platform, and so that it doesn't need to select. But if we choose the ORM account here, So we can set some limitations to this account. For example, I only want this account to get access to a few organizations. So I can choose the button over here, and then I select the organization that I want this account to get access to. Or I can choose to only let this account to get access to some few plants. For example, for this account, I only want it to have the access to this plant and this plant. And after confirm that this account has been successfully set, so the visitor account is the same. I can choose a limitation by the organization or the different plants. And by here, we can do some modify of this account. For example, I can change the rule and also change the limitation or the plants. And by clicking here, we can reset the password of this account. And by clicking here, we can delete this account. So the next page is about the owner. Well, so for this part, it will basically show the user's name or the email address. And also, we can do some changes here. We can change the information of this user, and we can reset the password for them. And the feedback function, well, actually is related to the button over here. So at every page, at the very top of every page, we can see a feedback function here. If we click this button, so we can put our feedback into it and put some required information and also the contact number or the email here. And if we have submit, so this organization, so the owner of this organization, they can check all the feedbacks from their distributors or the installers or their users here, and then he can choose to open these feedbacks and to check the detailed information inside this one by one. And here we can also search the feedback according to the different ID, the submitter, the start date, and the end date, and also by the different status of this feedback. And here, this page is about the notification, and then we can use the slides for some further introduction. Can see. So this is the page. Yeah. So actually, the function will be more look like this. So it's similar that we also have the category of the alarm and those news from the systems here. And we can choose to check these alarms or the system by their different categories. And also by the settings here, we can set the push method of the alarms just as we mentioned. And by clicking here, we can choose to all read this or read these notifications so that we can only know that which notification is new and needs us to pay extra attention to. Okay, so the next part is about the account itself. So we can do some settings about our account. We can change the avatar, the username, or the password here, or the new email address. And also we can do some general settings of this account. And also here is a privacy agreement. And here, so if we click in here, we will lead you to the product related page. So from this page, you can enter into our website and download some of the product documents of our products. And from here, it is also a function that can help us to get access to the feedback. And that is all the function that is included in our platform. And also, let's check about the new functions we have just updated from here. Okay, the first one is the device replacement. Yeah, we have covered this before. Okay, let's move to the first part. So this one is the breakpoint resume function. We have also mentioned this. And please be noticed that for this function, it has some limitations. Well, currently, only the first generation inverters with the permitted firmware, which the ARM should be higher or equal than V01 and 24. that can support this function. And the generation 2 will be available in this September. Well, actually, we're testing this function right now, so it will be released very soon. And the operation paths are, yeah, as we just showed, under the device page and under the configuration button of each device. We can find the function button over here. And the next is about the SOC reset function. Well, this is also a very useful function during the real installation and the operation, because sometimes after the long time of operation, the actual SOC of the battery sometimes can be different from the SOC we see from the platform. And in this case, we can set the SOC reset function in here. It's still under the device page, and we can click the configuration button over here. So by the inverter maintenance page over here under the configuration, we can choose to open the SOC reset. Well, we can reset the SOC of the battery like every day or every week or every month. And after clicking here, we can also see the last time the SOC collaboration from here. After we have clicked this button, and the system will follow these rules to reset the SOC, follow the time we have set. And there's one thing to be noted, that the SOC reset timer will be reloaded when we have detected that the SOC now have reaching the 100% during the normal operation. And for this function, it also have some limits. Well, currently, all the generation 2 inverters, they can support this function, but for the generation 1 inverter, they need to have the required firmware, which is the ARM should be higher or equal than V01 and 23, so that they can use this function. And the MPPT shadow scan function, well, so this function also lies in the configuration button. So after we clicking it and we enter into the feature parameters, we can see some of the options here. So if we haven't opened the function of the MPPT parallel connection, and that means we can just turn on one MPPT shadow scan function. And that is to say, for example, if the roof inside in this house have two orientations, so for each orientation we have connect with the PV string. So only one orientation have the shadows. So that I can choose just to open one shadow scan function on these PV strings. But what if I have opened the function that the MPPT parallel function? So that means in this case, these two options just will be the same. If I click the on button here, that means another one will just automatically enter into the on status. Yeah, and here is, we just mentioned that we can dismiss some faults that displayed on this account. We can just save the really important ones. And here is a device log function. Okay, so this upgradation, the first thing about this upgradation is that we have now added the smart meter and the EV chargers log inside. So if the system includes these two devices, we can check the log for these devices too. And also, so this is what we have done. We have optimized the layout of the device logs. Okay. Yeah, okay. So that all the information can be seen very clearly. And so here is a power plant following function, as we mentioned at the very beginning stage. Yeah, here we have mentioned before, it's about how to set the alarm pushing rules. Yeah, this is the same. Yes, okay, we have already covered this part. It's for if your inverter is not running normally, it will give you a brief reason and the suggested solutions. And here, so in the installed capacity report, we have now included the desired generator, the smart meter, and the data logger inside. And the part offline is also included. Okay, so this part is about the RCR and the 14 ampere function. Well, actually, so this function is mainly for the RCR. Okay, so because this function is mainly used in Austria, Germany, and in Switzerland, and for the 14 ampere is a regulation that has been recently set by Germany grid operators. So we just skip this part for now.
Okay.
So here are some of the customer switches that we have upgrade in our system. And we can see it more clearly. For example, well, the first one is the, so first let's say that the button over here, after we have clicking the configuration button and enter into the configuration page, and we can find the customer switches over here. So there are many small functions under this page. The first one is the grid recover backup output delay function. Well, this function is mainly be applied in some situations that, well, some customers, they didn't connect the backup load with the backup port in our inverter. Well, instead, they use the ATS to control all the backup load and use the ATS to connect with the inverter. And some of the ATS, they connect with the system, well, actually, maybe the old versions. So that to say, when the grid is experiencing a cut down or the grid doesn't work, so in this case, the situation is very simple because the ATAs will just choose another provider of the energy. So that is to say, the ATAs will choose to use the power from the backup side. But what if the grid have recovered? So because our inverters, they have a very quick off-grid and on-grid switch time, and that means this process could be finished in just like less than 10 milliseconds, and some of the old version ATS, they won't be able to notice that, so it won't switch from the backup side to the grid side. So if we have turned on this function, that means we'll add a delay time between the backup port output. So for example, when the grid has recovered, it will just stop the backup for like a few seconds, and this second will be enough for the ATS to switch the power provider. So in this case, the system can run normally. And the next, the grid recover self-check function is that if we have turned it off, that means when the grid have recovered, the inverter won't enter into the self-check status. And if we, so actually this function is based on the different choices by the users. If we turn on this function, of course, that the inverter will follow the rules that set by the safety regulations, but it will also cause the situation that the backup output could be interrupted if the power grid fails again during the auto test. And the grid lost backup output delay function is for the backup box detection function. Well, it's for the situation that if it is an off, for example, if it is an off-grid situation and we have some parallel inverters inside, and we have connected this system with the backup boards. So this function will be default to open. But what if we have just one inverter inside the system, and we have also connect this inverter with the backup boards? So in this case, we can choose to open this function so that we can detect that if the backup boards is in the good condition. And the next, is the grid loss backup output delay function. Well, this can define that the inverter's backup output time as a UPS or as a EPS. Well, the UPS means that the switch time of the on-grid and off-grid could be very quickly. And the EPS means the EPS level switch time means that the time required will be a little bit longer than the UPS, but also be finished very quickly. So if we choose to if we choose to enable this function, and that means that we can set the inverter's backup output as the EPS so that it will add a 2-second delay in the backup output. So it can, so for example, if it has some large loss on the off-grid mode, it helps them to better to smoothly switch during the daily operation. The grid active balancing function, well, the function here means that for some situations, if we put too much load on just in one phase, and that might cause the unbalance of the grid. So if we open this function, that means that we can enable the active grid balancing even we don't have any battery or the PV power inside this system, for example, in the evening. So the custom switches of here is really professional. Actually, we don't meet these parameters commonly in our daily operation. So if you met the situation that requires the customer switches, you can contact with our technical support so that we can give you a better solution of how to use it. And all of this function, we can see the question mark over here. So if we have put our indicator just on the question mark here, then we can see the instructions and the introduction of how to use this function. And later, maybe you can try that in your platform. Okay, the next part, the point comparison function. Yeah, we have already covered this part. And that could be all for today's introduction.